Hi, my name's Starsky and welcome to From the Studio on Clubbing TV. In this episode, I'm going to take a look at Behringer's new little 8-voice analog polysynth. It's their PRO-800. And this is based on the sequential Prophet 600 from 1983, which was the first synth ever to have MIDI as standard. It was an attempt by Sequential to make a budget version of the Prophet 5, and to do that they used digital control of pretty much everything. And the problem with that was the CPU, and that's this chip I've got here, just wasn't up to the task. Back in '83, processing power wasn't quite what we expect these days. I've got an original here, and I've only just realised how heavy it is compared to this little thing here, which is just so light. 8 voices versus 6 voices on the original. And the issue with the original is that you twist a knob and you wait, there's a lag, it all feels really sloppy to use. You're waiting for things to happen, and the envelopes were digital envelopes, and they just didn't have the resolution of analog envelopes at that time, and they were just really a bit useless. They sort of cut out and they weren't very fast. So the overall user experience wasn't great, even though the sound was pretty wonderful. And that's until Gleegly came along with an upgrade of the CPU using this slightly modified off-the-shelf Teensy chip. And that brought extra functionality, improved the envelopes, and generally made it a better synth. And that's what the Behringer is based on. It's basically got a version of the Gleegly upgrade in it. I think Gleegly himself helped Behringer at the outset of this. So let's take a look at what we've got. If you've ever played with one of the other Behringer clones, you'll recognise the form factor instantly. It's the same as things like the Pro-1, the Cat and the Wasp. And these are all Eurorack compatible. You can take them out of the cases. The PRO-800 comes, I think they all do as well, with a Eurorack power connector, as well as just a couple of Eurorack CV patch cables. Although with this one, we do only have limited patchability. We've got a sync in and a filter CV in, but that's about it. Here we've got the phones and an audio out as well. We've got a single mono audio output, we've got a foot switch in, so you can use the sustain pedal. This is where we pick our MIDI channels using these dip switches. A full-size MIDI out and through, and we've also got USB, which is for MIDI and updates. And although it's quite a compact synth, it doesn't in any way feel overly cluttered. There's plenty of space to get your fingers into the switches and all the knobs, and the build quality is the same as all the others. I've got no qualms about it. There's a little bit wobbly, you know, these aren't vintage pots, big metal things, but I'd have absolutely no reservations about taking this to a gig. In fact, I'd rather take this to a gig than the original. I think it would be a lot more trustworthy, to be honest. It uses the membrane buttons just like the original, and this has got this weird old sort of calculator style display, which is similar to the original, but on this one we get 4 characters, on the original we only get 2, so it's slightly easier to read, and once you've played with it for a while you do get used to it. I'll just show you if we go into here, LFO shapes. We change those shapes, so you've got pulse or triangle, random or sine. So it's a little bit hieroglyphic-esque, but once you've used it for a while, you get used to it. And as we're looking at all these buttons now, let's take a look at how it all works. And most of this stuff on the right hand side's pretty obvious if you've ever seen any other synths. A couple of oscillators, a filter, 2 envelopes, an LFO and the sequential polymod section. On the left hand side's where it gets a little bit more complex because we've got these membrane buttons and these different menu systems. There are a couple of nice little things on this that aren't immediately obvious. Got this unison mode here, so if we play a chord, put it into unison mode. Quite nice. Let's add a second oscillator to that. Filter it. And then we can turn it into a mono synth if we do that again and the chord's just a single note. So, which is really useful for bass line so you don't get smudgy things, if I just show you what I mean. Down an octave. That's it in mono mode. If I put that into normal mode, poly mode now. Bit smudgy. So it's really growly, isn't it? Really nice character to this. And if we put this into unison mode, when we're not touching anything, it then plays all 8 voices in unison. But that's not really what we expect from a unison. We want a big, fat, open, wide tone. So we need to detune the oscillators, which is what we normally have a little knob for. But in this, we go into settings. We're in the settings menu now. We go to 8. Unison detune, and we turn that up. We're in settings mode now. We can see this LED is lit on settings. We've got 3 main modes. Preset mode, we're just playing the preset. If we twist something now, we've edited it and we can see that's flashing. So that's mode 1 really. We've got a preset and we've edited it. Mode 2 is pressing performance, and this takes us into the settings menu. Settings menu is a bit weird when you first get it. Each of the buttons is basically a sub menu, and like we just saw earlier with the LFO, if I press it once, we're adjusting the shape. Press it again, we're now on the target. We've got a choice between A and B, oscillators A and B, or just A or just B. The original Prophet 600 didn't have that. You just got, if you see down here, frequency of A and B and the pulse width of A and B. So in this menu, we go in and we extend what we've got on the front panel. Okay, so that's mode 2. So mode 1 was presets. Mode 2 is the menu system, and then we've got the settings that we've seen before. And if we press performance again, we're now into what you see is what you get. So it's a manual mode. So that's actually 4 modes, isn't it? You've got the preset mode, you've got the menus, you've got the manual mode, and you've got settings. The sequencer and arpeggiator are controlled by these 2 buttons here. We've got sync source, so we can have it as external, internal, or MIDI, or USB. So let's put it back on internal for now, so we can hear something. And sync clock's got BPM and swing and stuff like that. So if we turn the ARP on, if we press R while we're pushing the keys down, we actually get a hold function. So that's not an ARP. So to use it as an ARP, we push it before we hit any keys, then we press the keys. There we go. And if we press it and then press record at the same time, it holds on. Just make that a little bit nicer. We go to sync clock then. Note length. Holding on for longer. That doesn't make much sense with the decay up. There you go. Make it nice and snappy. So again, what have we got here? BPM. Knock it down to thereabouts anyway. Subdivision, so whether it's 16ths or quarters or 8ths. Then we've got swing. Leave that on 0. And back to note length. We've got different ARP modes. I don't know what we're on at the minute, but if we press ARP to 1, it's playing up. 2 is down. 3 is Stranger Things mode. And then 4 is up, then down, so it'll play. So this plays the top notes and the bottom notes twice, basically. Slightly different. Sequencers are interesting. We've got 400 notes that we can put into the sequencer, and it's shared between sequencer 1 and sequencer 2. If we go into sequencer 1, it's not playing because I've not recorded anything, so let's record something, press sequencer 1, hold record, go record note 1. You get the idea. There we go, so that should play. Back into sequencer 1. And then we've got sequencer 2 as well. And let's play something over that, shall we? Something nice and simple. So come out of record, press sequencer 2, and press sequencer 1. So that's really nice. You can do really interesting patterns, even though it's a really simple sequencer. Well, the really cool thing about this is you are getting a full 8-voice analog polysynth for about, or just a bit under €400. This cost me £339. And when you think about the price of something like a Prophet 5, which this is loosely based on, or Prophet 600 was loosely based on, they're £3,000 or over £3,000 to buy a new version of that, or you can be paying over £5,000 for the original. This itself, standing on its own as an 8-voice polysynth, is pretty amazing. And if you want to know a little bit more about it, I've got a full walkthrough on my Starsky Carr YouTube channel, as well as a comparison of it with the Prophet 600. So whatever you want to know about it, I think I've pretty much got you covered. So I'll see you in the next episode of From the Studio.